anchor and reporter with News Talk WSB Radio. You are watching the Atlanta Press Club Louder Milk Young debate series. This is the primary election debate for Democratic candidates in Congressional District 13. Now, in order to ensure everyone's safety, candidates are participating from their homes. And the Atlanta Press Club gives a very special thank you to broadcast partner Georgia Public Broadcasting for helping organize these video debates. Now let's meet the candidates, and they are in alphabetical order. Michael Owens works with a national security company and is the former chair of the Cobb County Democrats. Jannquell Peters is the former mayor of East Point and a child advocate attorney. David Scott is the incumbent representing Georgia's Congressional District 13 since 2003. Congressman Scott declined to participate in today's debate. Keisha Waits is a member of Georgia's State House representing District 60. And I am joined by Ross Williams, who is a political reporter with the Georgia Recorder. All right, now let's get started. Please note that the candidates will have 60 seconds to answer their questions and 30 seconds to respond to rebuttals. Our mics will be on the entire time. And for the full set of rules, please visit the Atlanta Press Club website, atlantapressclub.org. All right, to start the debate, each candidate will be asked one question. And Ross, you get the first question to Keisha Waits.
Thank you. Do you support a single-payer healthcare system? Why or why not?
Well, I think I'll. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can hear you. Okay. Well, I think that that's a very complex conversation. Certainly, I'm disappointed that a lot of the work that the Obama administration did has been somewhat dismantled, if you will. But yes, the answer is yes, I do. I think right now, given the COVID-19 dynamic, healthcare will be the #1 issue in this particular election cycle.
All right. Thank you so much, Representative Waits. I'm going to now ask a question to Dr. Michael Owens. A Hill-Harris poll conducted in April found 69% of American voters support Medicare for all, including 88% of Democrats and 68% of independents. Party leadership has a segment which largely does not. How do you explain this apparent divide between the DNC and its supporters?
Well, first of all, Veronica, thanks for having us here and hosting this debate. Happy to be taking part in it. It's really clear. I mean, I've made my support for Medicare for all from the very beginning of this campaign because men and women and children across this district and across this country have to have medical services. As you mentioned, it's supported by over 70% of people right here in Georgia. So the people of the district actually need it. In our district alone, we have over 100,000 people that are going without health care. The divide that we see in a lot of ways is manufactured because you have medical insurance companies and healthcare companies that really don't want to see this happen because those facts keep people in office. And that's one of the things we're running against. We want to make sure that these healthcare insurance companies do not skew
15 seconds.
The people and make sure that people actually get the healthcare that they need. It's very important.
So do you think that there is a divide between the party and the base?
The most important thing is what the people of the district and what the state wants and of the country. And they want Medicare for all because they want to make sure that people have health care coverage from the cradle to the grave, includes health care, vision, dental, and hearing. So yes, while there may be a divide between some within the Democratic Party, look, we're a Big Tent and we understand that. But we have to be cognizant of what the people actually want. And the people want coverage for every single person. And that's what I'm going to help give them.
Thank you. All right, Ross, you ask a question now to Jannquell Peters.
Thank you. There's been a lot of talk in the media about the progressive-moderate divide in the Democratic Party. Where do you see yourself in terms of that divide, and what can you do to help bridge it, unite the party?
Sure. Thank you so much for the question. Thank you to the Atlanta Press Club and GPB for putting on this event as well. So I do see myself as a progressive. I think that my record speaks for itself. As the mayor in East Point, we moved forward some extraordinarily progressive measures, such as raising the minimum wage, which is now, I believe, at $15 an hour in the city of East Point. For city workers in East Point, we moved forward with the expansion of healthcare options for city workers. We moved forward with green building practices. I think it is going to take an awful lot of education on the part of Democrats and people who are interested in moving our communities forward. Listen, opportunity barriers have been in place for an extraordinarily long period of time, and we cannot remove those opportunity barriers slowly. I believe I am a progressive. The issues that I have worked on speak for themselves, and education is going to help move the rest of the party along with regard to those progressive ideas.
All right, that concludes the first portion of our debate. And now we're moving into the part of the debate where the candidates each get to ask a question to an opponent of their choice. Candidates will have 30 seconds to ask the questions, 60 seconds to respond, and then another 30 seconds for rebuttal. Now, by random selection before the debate began, Jannquell Peters was selected to first ask the question to an opponent of your choice.
Okay, wonderful. I will ask the question of Representative Waits. Representative Waits, can you please tell us the top priorities that you see that needs addressing through congressional legislation in the district?
Mayor, thank you for the question. I think it's an ideal question given this conversation. And as I started, when we addressed single-payer insurance premiums, healthcare will be one of the #1 issues impacting our country, I think, given the number of people who have been impacted by this pandemic. The second thing that I see is probably going to be quality of life issues. One of the greatest challenges that I see here in District 13 is probably constituent services, from what I am told. While I was a member of the Georgia House of Representatives, one of the things that I worked on that I was extremely passionate about was high-speed rail. As you are aware, gridlock and traffic here in the metro Atlanta region is absolutely horrific. And so for me, the top 3 issues would be healthcare, quality of life issues such as constituent services, affordable healthcare, thank you, for seniors, and addressing gridlock. And finally, putting our economy back together following the aftermath of COVID-19.
All right, thank you so much. Now, Michael Owens, you get to ask the next question to one of your opponents.
Sure, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My question would actually be...
I'm sorry, excuse me, Dr. Owens. I do need to allow for a rebuttal first from Ms. Peters.
Oh, there's no rebuttal. No rebuttal. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. My apologies, everybody. Just moving right along. All right. Now we will go to Michael Owens, and you get to ask a question of your choice to a candidate of your choice.
Sure. Well, my question would actually be to Congressman Scott, first of all, as to why he's not attending this debate, and ask some questions around why he's decided to support Republicans time and time again in elections, why it's been over 10 years since we had a public town hall in this district, and why he's chosen for almost 2 decades as an elected member of this district not to actually reside in this district. Now, I know it's unfortunate he's not here today to answer these questions, but I think it's important that as an elected official that you be accessible and accountable to the people in your district. So that's why I'm posing this question directly to him.
All right. Thank you very much. Again, Congressman Scott is declined to appear in today's debate. Keisha Waits, it is now your turn.
To ask a question?
Yes. To a candidate of your choice.
Absolutely. I would pose the question to actually both of my colleagues this morning, and that is, if you were not a candidate in this particular race and you had the opportunity to vote, who would you select if you were not a part of this election cycle to vote for in this election cycle? If you were not a candidate participating in this election cycle.
All right, let's go with Jannquell Peters first.
So I think that who I would vote for in an election cycle, I think people deserve the opportunity to reserve that between themselves and their ballot choices. But listen, I do believe that I have demonstrated my ability to lead in this district. I was elected as a mayor in the district. I have demonstrated that I understand what small governments need, and the 13th Congressional District is made up of a number of small cities with a variety of different challenges. I have demonstrated my ability to remove barriers from people who have been left behind. I've spent my career representing and advocating for children, families, and the community. So I certainly think that when it comes down to
15 seconds
election, voters have a very, very strong candidate if they decide to elect me to Congress.
All right. And now, Dr. Owens.
Thank you. The person I would vote for if I was not in this election would be someone who actually lives and resides in the district. I think it's really important that we have leadership from within. And as it stands right now, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but I'm the only person that's on this ballot that actually lives within the 13th Congressional District. which means when the ballots come out and it's time for people to vote, I'm the only person in this election who can actually vote for himself. So I think that's vitally important. So if it wasn't me, I would be working very hard to make sure I build the leadership within the district to make sure we have someone else within one of our 6 counties to run for the seat.
All right, rebuttal, Ms. Waits.
Absolutely. Well, I think that given the panel this morning, I think I'm the only candidate in this race who's actually participated in a legislative body that is actually made up of a nonpartisan composition. I think it's important that our next member of Voice has the experience necessary to hit the ground running.
15 seconds.
Extensive relationships on both sides of the aisle, which I think will be critical. And as you know, Dr. Owens is aware of what the requirements are to run for Congress that requires you to only live in the state of Georgia. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Now that concludes our
Is there a
second
rebuttal opportunity?
Sure, we'll give you 30 seconds, Ms. Peters.
Okay, thank you so much. Listen, I just want to let everyone who votes in the 13th Congressional District know this. I pay property taxes to a city in the district. I pay property taxes to a county in the district. And as much as my opponent in Cobb County tries to take this away from me, I was elected to serve people in the 13th Congressional District.
15 seconds.
East Point is a small city. And just like most of the other cities in the 13th Congressional District, it is split. And if you ask any mayor or member of council, solving problems is the only goal. So listen, I am as vested in the 13th as any person.
Okay, and that is time. Thank you very much, Ms. Peters. All right, and that concludes a fiery second round of our debate. For those just joining us, you're tuning in to the debate between Democratic candidates for Congressional District 13. Ross Williams and I will now continue to question the candidates until we run out of time, and I will determine when a rebuttal is appropriate. Candidates may raise their hand if they feel they should get a rebuttal. I'm going to take the first question in this round, and my question is for Dr. Michael Owens. Michael Owens, I'd like to find out from you whether or not the current split that we have seen in legislatures for some time is something that you would work to fix. Specifically, we have seen a lot of stalemates and inaction because of votes falling along party lines. So I want to ask you, what issue would you be willing to work with a Republican president, a Republican Senate, or any members of the opposing party on today?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I do think it's a bit of a misnomer when we talk about Democrats, Republicans, particularly within the Democratic Party, and more the progressive wing within that party being unable or unwilling to work across the aisle or work with Republicans. And that's absolutely not the case. You know, as chair of the Democratic Party of Cobb County, my goal was to be inclusive as possible and do everything possible to help the people, not only of only Cobb County, but the entire 13th district, the entire metro area as a whole. I think it's very possible when you're focused on the people and the needs of the people, the opportunities that we have within the district, as well as those threats that we have, and we can address those from a people first perspective. And I think if anyone, whoever is willing to bring those ideas and those laws and that legislation to the table, I'm more than happy and more than willing to work with them.
All right, thank you so much. Ross,
you're welcome.
Your turn to ask a question.
Did we have a rebuttal?
Just briefly. I think it's really difficult for the former chair of the Democratic Party in Cobb County to have us all believe that it would be very easy for him to come in and work with Republicans. We're all set in our political spaces, and I am the only person on stage who has worked in a nonpartisan capacity and has actually passed legislation without a partisan divide.
I did not see a hand raised down there. Representative Waits, you had a hand?
I did. Again, my legislative track record speaks for itself. I've successfully passed legislation along with my Republican colleagues. Hands-free driving was one of the bills that I actually co-authored and co-sponsored, which actually passed the year that I left the General Assembly, in addition to the Fallen Hero legislation, which provides, college tuition to the children who have lost their parents in the line of duty. And again, my co-sponsor was a Republican. So I think it's important that we have folks who can hit the ground running.
All right, Mr. Owens, 30 seconds.
So let me address this in a nonpartisan fashion. Myself being a third-generation Marine Corps veteran, I have served under both Republicans and Democrats, and it's made no matter as long as we were serving the will of the people and defending the democracy and the Constitution of this country. Furthermore, I have represented the 13th Congressional District in a nonpartisan fashion in Washington, D.C., with congressional leaders, Democratic and Republican, in the House and the Senate, fighting to keep America safe, fighting to make sure that we keep failed states from impacting our country, and to make sure that we keep our agriculture and businesses strong throughout this country.
Thank you so much, Mr. Owens. All right, Ross, thank you for helping catch that. I didn't see that hand raised down there. Appreciate it. We're going to move on to Ross Williams, and your turn to ask a question.
Representative Waits, what should be done on a federal level to help the region recover after this coronavirus crisis lifts, and why are you the person to do that best?
Thank you. Well, by trade, I'm a crisis manager. I've spent 15 years on the road serving as an emergency manager. I've worked some of the largest federally declared disasters in the country. Many of you are familiar with Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Sandy, recently Hurricane Michael, and I spent almost a year in Puerto Rico following Hurricane Maria. So I have those existing relationships on the federal and state level, which I think will be necessary to moving us forward, in addition to the fact that I've served with the Small Business Administration as well, writing disaster loans for several years. And so given that relationship, I understand the intimate needs of small business owners in terms of what they actually need to recover.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to ask a question to Jannquell Peters now. I'd like to know one thing that you've learned about yourself during this coronavirus pandemic.
I have learned resiliency. I have been, I lived through Hurricane Katrina, where I do not think that FEMA served the people of Louisiana and the city of New Orleans in that recovery effort well. And now we have this coronavirus pandemic. I just believe resiliency. I did not think that there would ever be another time that I would feel as frustrated as I did during Hurricane Katrina, but this is it. And I think that the ability that I've had to uplift the kids that I represent in foster care, although I'm a contract employee and wonder when I will be able to work again, is something that I'm really proud of, and it's certainly something that I attribute to my grandparents,
15 seconds.
And my parents, and really just the desire to leave spaces around me better than I find it. I did not know that I necessarily had it in me to go through another federal crisis, but here I am, having survived through Hurricane Katrina and now this pandemic.
All right, thank you so much. And Ross, to you.
Dr. Owens, I'm sorry. Tara Reade has accused Joe Biden of sexual harassment. Do you believe her?
I believe that we should take any allegation or any discussion very seriously, and we should make sure it's held in regard, discussed, and an investigation taking place. I think it's vitally important that we do so, particularly at this time where so many women are in situations where they may not want to speak out, or in times in the past. So it doesn't matter to me whether it's what happened yesterday or 25 years ago. Without a doubt, this is an issue within our party. It should be discussed, and investigation should occur.
Any follow-up, Ross?
No.
All right. I'm going to ask a question now to Representative Waits. You may know that Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard has created a conviction integrity unit, which will revisit some previous convictions in the office, as well as potentially look at cold cases. And we know that there is a likelihood that defendants of color are the ones who have most often suffered ineffective assistance of counsel and not have the benefit or resources of more affluent defendants. I'd like to ask whether or not you would support a federally funded version of such a unit.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. I think it's easy to say what we will or will not support. So for me, I'd like to see the fiscal note. And certainly we know here, specifically in Georgia, that we've had some challenges surrounding our judicial system. I'm very proud to have actually worked with DA Paul Howard on a number of these issues in terms of sponsoring local legislation to do this very thing. So absolutely, I'm very interested in funding, but I'm very interested in the fiscal note, because right now, in Washington, we have a habit of writing checks and not necessarily looking for the cost. So what it is my hope is that we can use discretionary funding from other pots to move forward with this particular fund.
Dr. Owens, I'll give you 30 seconds to rebut.
From a federal standpoint, we have to make sure that, one of the first things I've talked about with my campaign is ensuring that we end this biased mass incarceration that we have within our district. And it has to start at the federal level to ensure that we're doing things like ending cash bail at every level of government, and that we're doing everything we can to make sure that the amount of money someone has in the bank shouldn't determine how long they stay in jail. And that's where we are with cash bail. We also need to make sure that we decriminalize marijuana, at minimum, remove it as a Schedule I class drug, so that we're not incarcerating people. And we've seen this in our district. Our district is suffering mightily at the hands of this failed policies that we've had that put Black and brown people in jail. And we have to stop that.
Thank you, Dr. Owens. I'll give 30 seconds now to Ms. Peters to speak on this issue.
Certainly. Listen, I am a former public defender. So I have seen certainly firsthand people who have been subjected to inequities under the law. I would absolutely support something like this on the federal level, in addition to ending cash bail, closing private prisons, and all of the things that impose barriers on people of color.
15 seconds.
So yes, absolutely. And I certainly would want to see the cost build out, but we all know that a budget is just a list of priorities. And if it's a priority to remove barriers from marginalized communities, we will find a way to make it happen.
Thank you, Ms. Peters. All right, questions now from Ross.
My question is also for Ms. Peters. What steps would you take to help fight climate change, and specifically, would you support the Green New Deal?
Yes, I would absolutely support the Green New Deal. Listen, I lived through Hurricane Katrina. I have seen firsthand what impacts of climate change can do to communities and families and memories. I think that we need to absolutely try to reduce carbon emissions as quickly as we possibly can. I believe I would support legislation that created jobs through the Green New Deal. I would support legislation to continue to reduce carbon emissions. All of those things we need to do for our next generation.
Ross, any follow-up? Representative Waits?
Dr. Owens was first, but I'm happy to go now.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. I think it's important. I've had the opportunity to read the Green New Deal, but I think it's important that we also be very transparent. And that is, the Green New Deal is actually a resolution. It is non-binding. It is not a law. And so one of the things that I think it does well is that we get people talking and starting the conversation. And I think that's important.
Do you have something that you would add to the Green New Deal that you think would push it forward legislatively?
Well, yes. Right now, we're dealing with the current administration that has really unraveled a lot of the EPA requirements that were, in my opinion, moving us forward in terms of this conversation. Right now, if you look at COVID-19, if you look at places like Los Angeles, California, we don't see smog. There are areas where we can now actually see fish in rivers and streams. And so we know we can get this done. So I'd like to see some of this work be binding law so that it can be enforced.
All right. Thank you so much. Dr. Owens.
You know, I started my campaign talking about environmental justice, and a lot of people question why I would begin a campaign talking about that issue. And really is because I understand how it impacts our district. Look, right where I live, and when I get off 285 and I'm driving home, I have to drive by a landfill, a chemical plant, and a brick mason factory. And so, you know, I see these things. I live around these things, and I wonder what it's actually doing to us. So, you know, I'm proud to be endorsed by the Sunrise Movement, a group of nationwide of young people who understand what climate change is going to do, not only right now, but to the future going forward. We have to step up and do these things because as seas rise and as temperatures fire, we have to make sure we're doing everything.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. I think I've lost. Is it my turn or Ross's turn? I think it's on me. I want to talk to, let me ask something of you, Dr. Owens, and I'm curious to know what ideas you would have right now that we could put on the table that would address the issue of food insecurity, which we have seen surging in this coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things we can do is, you know, I took place I was a graduate of Leadership Georgia, and that really opened my eyes to this state as a whole and understanding just how important agriculture is to this state. One of the things that we can do is ensure that we actually support our farmers, and we also support our migrant workers, our guest worker programs, and ensuring that we have people that are actually that can keep the supply chain going and is supporting our farmers, even our farmers locally. I was talking with a farmer in our district just a couple of days ago, and you know he's making sure that he has a supply chain in part so that he can continue to supply the grocery stores and supply the people with the food they need. This is an issue that we can absolutely solve. It's not that hard of a problem. We just have to be committed to it and ensuring that we're putting the pieces together.
So your solution involves some sort of partnership or something with, could you give me some sort of specific thing that you can see that we could do to address this?
Yeah, number one, make sure that we're keeping our guest worker program alive, our HB1A visas, so we can ensure we have the workers in place to be able to cultivate the crops and pick them and make sure we can get them in. And then make sure we have a solid supply chain to make sure we get the food to where it's needed.
15 seconds. Okay, supply chain issues. Thank you so much. I'd like to give 30 seconds to Ms. Peters.
Sure. Listen, people who are food insecure they're not thinking about supply chain. They need money. They need access to transportation. So some of the things that I would do is support a transportation bill. I would support, we have to improve wage stagnation. I would certainly support a bill
15 seconds.
that would raise the minimum wage and certainly health care opportunities for individuals.
Thank you. Ms. Waits?
Yes, as a member of the we did that were food businesses provide incentives for grocery stores and vendors who actually wanted to go up and set up farmers markets. I also think it's important that we continue to support urban farmers as well.
All right, thank you very much. And let's turn it over to Ross. Ross Williams.
Ms. Waits, what measures would you support to help reduce student loan debt? Specifically, who would apply for it and how much would they be able to reduce their debt by?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are measures in place right now for individuals who currently serve in public service opportunities, teachers, first responders. So there are opportunities already available to them. The challenge is getting to that. There is a lot of red tape. There's a 10-year requirement, and so many payments are necessary to move that forward. And so I think this goes back to constituency services, and that is we need to reduce the red tape for individuals who are already on track to receive a forgiveness or student loan payments, and I support that fully for teachers, military officials, as well as first responders. And I'd like to remove that red tape through a legislative capacity so that individuals do not have to provide this amazing amount of paperwork. In fact, I'm one of those individuals who've applied for those provisions for many, many years and still yet, after serving 15 years in federal government, have not been able to benefit from that. And so I'd like to remove the red tape and the barriers for the loan forgiveness program for individuals who do public service. Thank you.
All right, rebuttal, Dr. Owens.
You know, I agree with what Representative Waits has said, but we've got to go further than that. We're sitting on a crisis right now. Student loan debt has grown and is growing faster than it ever has before. Students are being saddled with more debt than they ever have before at a time where they're facing more competition and a lack of jobs when they actually come out of school. What we need to do, actually, and it took me a while to get here, but we definitely need to cancel student loan debt and ensure that we're giving a leg up to students when they get out. We also need to make sure we close the gap, and I propose doing so by making sure that we ban credit card companies from going on campus, as well as going forward at a cap on the amount of money that student loans pay back.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, let me ask Representative Waits if you could address your feelings about the socialist label that many Democrats get or that the Democratic Party gets from its opposing party.
That's interesting. Well, here's the reality. America was founded on so many principles that I think are important. And I do believe fundamentally that universal health care should be an American right. I believe the right to vote and participate in a democratic process should be an American right. And the reality is that I think it's important that we have a moral responsibility to take care of those individuals who have special needs, to take care of those individuals who are part of marginalized communities. And so many times that is labeled socialism. I see that as a fundamental moral responsibility that is one of the founding principles of the United States of America. And so that's something that I don't run away from. And I think as Democrats, I think we've got to stop running away from the very thing that makes us Democrats.
All right, 30 seconds, Dr. Owens.
Really quickly, again, as the former chairman of the Democratic Party in Cobb County, I grew the largest Democratic Party in the state of Georgia, and it was built through being inclusive. So, understand that we're the big tent party, if you will. We have to make sure we get everyone that's left of center to join us in this election as we move forward, and then on to November, so we can make sure that we take the White House, we retain the U.S. Congress, and we win over the Senate. So we have to have everybody on board. Never mind the label of progressive, socialist, or moderate. When it comes time to win in November, we all have to be on the same page.
And can we get a quick insertion here with Ms. Peters?
Sure, and I think Dr. Owens was mentioning towards the end of his remarks that, yes, listen, most people don't even really are unable to really put a definition to what a democratic socialist really is. So I think if we start to focus really on the issues that matter to working class families and to everyday people and moving forward with those issues that are impactful, we are a big tent party, and we will certainly make sure that we are working to support a wide swath of individuals.
Thank you very much. And that concludes this round of our debate. That's all the time we've got for questions. And so each candidate will now have 60 seconds to give a closing statement. Michael Owens, you go first.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge and thank everyone out there for listening. And I hope you're staying safe as we go through this pandemic. This election is really about moving forward. It's about, making sure that we have an engaged, bold leader who's ready to step forward and put people first. Someone who's been engaged in a district and working for over a decade to make sure that people's voices are heard. It's about making sure that we actually have someone that's from the district, someone who actually lives in the district that's going to be out there and represent us and what all of our needs are. I'm that person. I have experience at the local level, grassroots, national level, and international level as well. We need that with all the challenges and threats that we have coming our way. I'm the only candidate that's going to do that. I'm happy that we have people that are stepping up to run for this race. It shows the lack of leadership that we've currently had through this district. I'm ready to take the reins and move forward. I'm thankful for all the endorsements that I've had at a national level and our local elected officials that believe in me. I'm ready to take the baton and move it forward. Please, after this debate, please go to my Facebook site. We're going to have a post-debate forum where we're going to answer a lot of the questions that we were not able to answer during this debate. Thank you all for your time. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Russ. Thank you, GPB and Atlanta Press Club. Have a great day.
And that is time. Thank you.
And make sure you vote.
All right, Keisha Waits, please give your closing statement.
Yes, I want to thank the Atlanta Press Club for the opportunity to speak directly to the voters. I also want to thank my colleagues who took the time to join us this morning and thought enough of the voters to participate. Thank you to each of you for spending time with us this morning so that we can actually speak directly to the voters. But I think that the absence of the current seat holder is indicative of actually why we are running. And I think that's problematic. I think at a time right now, given the urgency of COVID-19, that our leaders have to show up and be present. I think that's imperative in terms of getting anything done. For more information regarding our campaign, I would ask you to visit KeishaWaits.com. A lot of the things that we talked about are listed there in terms of the issues that I support. I am a 3-term former state lawmaker where I've served on both sides of the aisle in terms of having a history of getting things done. I'm a small business owner, so I intimately understand the challenges that a lot of our small business owners are facing, and I'm also a woman of faith. And so I ask you for your vote and your support.
Thank you so much. And Jannquell Peters, please give your closing statement.
Thank you again to the Atlanta Press Club and GPB for hosting this event. Thank you, Veronica and Ross, for being our moderators and asking questions of us today. So listen, the House of Representatives is not in session this week. Members are at home, yet David Scott has made a choice not to be here. His committee votes that have paved the way to deregulate banks, his votes that roll back consumer protections, that keep us involved in wars, that shows us that he has made his choice to support special interests that have little interest in showing up for hardworking families. Listen, I made a choice very early in my career to dedicate it to public service, to children, families, and the community. As an advocate and a former mayor in this district who has gotten things done, I am uniquely qualified to serve in Congress, and I never give up on the people that depend upon me. I ask you to make a different choice this voting cycle. We need more women in Congress. We need compassionate advocates with experience to help people and communities reach their full potential. JannquellPeters.com is my website. I ask for your vote on June 9th. Thank you very much.
And that is time. Thank you so much. And that concludes our debate. We'd like to remind voters that Election Day is Tuesday, June 9th. Early voting begins May 18th. I want to thank the candidates for participating in the debate, and I thank Ross Williams for assisting me so well today. And I would also like to thank the Atlanta Press Club and Georgia Public Broadcasting for arranging today's debate. For more information on the full schedule of primary election debates, please visit atlantapressclub.org. This debate will be archived there and on Georgia Public Broadcasting's website, gpb.org. I'm Veronica Waters. Once again, thank you for joining us for the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series.